Working a job right now. Maybe you don't hate it. Maybe you do. But deep down, you know it's not enough. You look at your bank account at the end of the month and something feels wrong. You're working hard. You're doing everything they told you to do, and yet, the gap between where you are and where you want to be feels like it's getting wider, not smaller. Meanwhile, someone your age just sold their company for 8 figures. Someone you went to school with just bought their second property. And you're here wondering, what do they know that I don't? Here's the answer. And I'm not going to dress it up.
What you're about to hear in the next 45 minutes took me years to piece together from books, billionaires, and some very expensive mistakes. It's not motivation, it's not inspiration, it's not going to make you feel good about where you are right now. But by the end of this, you will understand money differently. You will understand why most people stay exactly where they are. And more importantly, you will understand the specific mechanics that separate people who build real wealth from people who just talk about it. We're going to cover everything. Where money actually comes from, and I mean the real origin, not the textbook version. Why the equation you've been given your whole life is fundamentally broken. The exact framework wealthy people use to build income. The psychological traps that keep smart people broke. And the one question you need to start asking every single day. This isn't going to be comfortable, but if you're still watching at the end, you'll never see money the same way again. Let's go. Before we talk about making money, we need to talk about what money actually is, because almost everything you believe about it is wrong. Let me take you back. Thousands of years ago, humans used a barter system. You have rice, I have sugar, we trade. Simple. Except it wasn't simple at all. You had to find someone who had exactly what you wanted and wanted exactly what you had at the same time. The probability of that working out efficiently? Near zero. So people got creative. They started using commodities, cattle, grain, tobacco, even liquor, as a medium of exchange, something everyone needed, something with inherent value. But even that had a problem. How do you agree on the true value of a cow? And what happens when your currency literally dies? So gold and silver coins came into the picture. Universal, durable, rare enough to matter. But then, and pay attention here, then came the twist that changed everything. Gold is heavy. Heavy things get stolen. So wealthy merchants started depositing their gold with trusted goldsmiths for safekeeping. In return, the goldsmith gave them a receipt, a piece of paper that said, "I have your gold. You can collect it any time." And here's where the real story begins. People started trading those receipts instead of the gold itself. Why carry heavy metal when your receipt was just as good? Everyone trusted the goldsmith. Everyone knew the gold was there. But the goldsmith noticed something. Almost nobody ever came back to collect their gold. They just kept passing the receipts around. So the goldsmith, being human, got greedy. He started issuing more receipts than he had gold. He was literally printing money he didn't have. And as long as everyone didn't show up at the same time demanding their gold, nobody would ever know. That goldsmith? He was the world's first banker. That receipt? The world's first banknote. And that scam he invented, creating paper promises backed by assets that don't fully exist, that is still the operating system of every bank on Earth today. Here's how it works right now. You deposit $1,000 in your bank. The bank is legally required to hold back about 10%, that's $100, as a cash reserve. The other $900, they lend it to someone else. Now here's where it gets strange. That borrower gets $900 deposited in their account,
but your account still shows 1,000. Both of you have purchasing power. The bank has created $900 out of nothing just by typing numbers into a computer. And it doesn't stop there. That 900 gets deposited somewhere else. The bank keeps 10%, lends out 810, and again, and again. $1,000 of real cash turned into nearly $10,000 of circulating currency through nothing but accounting. Almost nobody knows this, and the people who run this system would prefer you never did. Because once you understand that money is not a thing, it's a belief, everything changes. Here's why this matters to you specifically. Currency is not money. This distinction will make you rethink every financial decision you've ever made. Currency is a medium of exchange. The government can reject it overnight. They've done it before, they'll do it again. But money, real money, is a store of value. Gold has been a store of value for 5,000 years. No government decree has ever changed that. You think your savings account is safe. It isn't. If even 20% of account holders tried to withdraw their money at the same time, the bank couldn't pay them. The cash simply doesn't exist. This is why understanding the system is the first step. Not to make you paranoid, but to make you strategic. Because if you're trying to get rich playing a game you don't understand, the house will always win.
Now here's the part that's going to sting. The equation for money you've been taught your entire life, from school, from your parents, from society, is fundamentally, mathematically, provably wrong if your goal is real wealth. The equation is simple. Work time, earn money. The more time you work, the more money you make. That's it. That's the whole thing. That's what 12 years of school and 4 years of university prepared you for. And here's the problem with it. You have exactly 24 hours in a day. No more. No negotiation. And in that model, your income has a hard ceiling. A ceiling set by the number of hours you can physically work, multiplied by how much someone is willing to pay for each of those hours. Let's run the numbers. If you earn $20 an hour and work 40 hours a week, it will take you nearly 24 years to accumulate $1 million. Before taxes, before expenses, before inflation erodes that million to something worth far less than it sounds. 24 years, trading the best years of your life for $1 million that won't actually buy what $1 million sounds like it should. This is not a path to wealth. This is a slow drain on the most valuable resource you will ever own. And that resource is time. Here's what nobody tells you in school. Time and money are not equivalent. You can always make more money. You cannot make more time. Once it's gone, it's gone. Every hour you sell for a fixed wage is an hour you've permanently given away. But here's where most people get confused. The alternative isn't to stop working. The alternative is to change what your work is attached to. Here's the real question. Is your income tied to your time or to your value? Because every person who has built serious wealth figured this out. They stopped selling time. They started creating value that could reach people whether they were working or not, whether they were sleeping or not, whether they were on a different continent or not. But here's the real problem, and this is where most people completely fail. Knowing the broken equation isn't enough. You need the new one.
So what is the actual equation? It starts with something that sounds almost insultingly simple.
Stop chasing money. Chase problems. Sit with that for a second. Every dollar that has ever been created in a capitalist economy, every single one, came from someone solving a problem that other people had. That's it. That's the entire game. Jeff Bezos didn't set out to become the world's richest man. He identified a problem. Buying books was inconvenient. You had to go to a store. Selection was limited. Prices were high. He built a solution. And the market, which is just people with money who have problems, rewarded him for it.
Amazon didn't start as the everything store. It started as the bookstore. One problem, one solution. Obsessive focus. Pay attention here, because this is where most people go wrong.
They hear solve problems and immediately think, I need to build the next Amazon. I need $1 billion idea. I don't know how to code. I don't have startup capital. Stop. That's old thinking. The size of the reward is proportional to the size and scale of the problem you're solving. But you don't start at scale. You start at one problem. Here's how to actually do this. Listen to the world around you. Literally listen. What do people complain about? What do they say is inconvenient? What do they wish existed? What takes too long, costs too much, or requires too much expertise to figure out? That frustration you're hearing, that's a market signal. That's the market telling you where it wants to spend money. And once you've found the problem, your job is to find a solution that scales. This is the most critical word in the entire conversation. Scale. Because here's the brutal truth about most income. If your solution requires your personal time to generate money, you've just created a more complicated version of the job you were trying to escape. If you're a consultant who charges $500 an hour, you've built yourself a very expensive job. If you're a yoga teacher charging per session, same thing. The income stops the moment you stop working. Scalable means you build it once and it keeps working. Software, online courses, content, licensing, franchising, rental income, investments, systems. These things don't require your physical presence every time someone benefits from them. You create the asset once, and the asset generates value continuously. Here's a real example. A YouTube channel. You record a video once. That video can be watched by 10 people or 10 million people, and the effort required from you is identical. That is scale. That is leverage. Which brings us to the concept that separates people who build wealth from everyone else. Leverage. There are 3 types of leverage, and understanding all 3 will completely change how you think about building income. The first is labor, other people's time. You only have 24 hours. They have 24 too. Build a team and you multiply your effective hours without multiplying your personal time spent. The second is capital, other people's money, or your money working for you. Every dollar invested is a dollar working while you sleep. The goal is eventually to have more dollars working than you have hours available. The third, and this is the one almost nobody talks about, is zero marginal cost products. Code and media. An app costs the same to build whether one person uses it or 1 million. A video costs the same to record whether one person watches it or 10 million. This is where ordinary people can build extraordinary leverage, because for the first time in human history, the tools to create this kind of leverage are free or nearly free and accessible to anyone with internet. Now, you might be thinking, okay, but even with all this, doesn't it take money to start? Here's what I call the get-rich tripod, and this changes everything. To build wealth, you only need one of 3 things. Leverage, meaning capital, money to deploy. Expertise, meaning deep skill others value. Or time, meaning sweat equity, the willingness to work longer than everyone else. Pick one leg, just one, and stand on it. If you have money, invest it. Use capital as your lever. If you have expertise, sell it, package it, teach it. Use knowledge as your lever. If you have neither, you have time. Partner with people who have capital and expertise. Trade your effort for equity. Show up earlier, work harder, learn faster. Time is a legitimate leg of the tripod. The mistake almost everyone makes is trying to use the leg they don't have. Broke people try to use capital they don't have. Beginners try to sell expertise they haven't built. And busy people complain they don't have time. Figure out which leg you actually own right now. Then use it. Now, here's where it gets uncomfortable. Because understanding the mechanics of wealth is only half the battle. The other half is understanding why intelligent people, people who know all of this, still stay broke. And the answer almost always comes down to psychology. Trap number 1. Looking rich versus being rich. There is an entire universe of people out there covered in designer logos who have essentially zero net worth. They're wearing their bank account. Every visible label is capital that could have been invested instead. Here's the pattern. When you have a little money, you want to show it. When you have more, you feel the pressure to demonstrate it. When you have a lot, you stop caring entirely. The people at the very top don't need logos.
They're wearing no logo cashmere that costs $4,000 and looks like it came from a discount store. The goal isn't to look like money. The goal is to have it. Live poor to be wealthy, not the reverse. Trap number 2. Mental accounting. Your brain files money into different mental folders. Savings account, sacred, can't touch it. Unexpected bonus, free money, spend it on anything. But here's the truth. Money doesn't have different values depending on where it came from. A dollar is a dollar is a dollar. Casinos figured this out decades ago. They use chips instead of cash because chips don't feel like real money. The same psychology that makes you overspend at a casino makes you overspend on a credit card. The pain of paying is removed when you don't see cash leaving your hands. The solution: automate your money before your brain can file it into the spending folder. The moment your paycheck arrives, before you see it, before you think about it, a fixed percentage goes to investments. A fixed percentage goes to savings. What's left is yours to spend without guilt. This is what I call conscious spending. Not about spending less on everything, about spending ruthlessly on the things you genuinely love and cutting completely on the things you don't. If you love restaurants, spend there. If you never watch Netflix, cancel it today. The goal is alignment between your spending and your actual values, not a generic austerity plan that makes you miserable. Trap number 3. Valuing your time wrong. Almost nobody has ever calculated what 1 hour of their time is actually worth. If you spend 3 hours driving between grocery stores to save $60 in total, you have just valued your time at $20 per hour, which might be fine if you earn $20 per hour. But if you earn or want to earn $100 per hour, you just took a massive loss. Rich people are obsessive about this calculation, not because they're arrogant, because time is finite and money is not. Every hour has an opportunity cost. The question is always, what else could this hour have produced? Trap number 4. Chasing the big win. Almost nobody gets wealthy from a single event. They get wealthy from a system. Consistent behavior applied over time with compound interest doing the heavy lifting. Here's a story that makes this real. 3 people invest $3,000 per year at a 10% annual return. Billy starts at 15, invests for just 5 years, total investment $15,000, then stops completely, never invests another dollar. Susan starts at 19, invests for 8 years, total investment $24,000, then stops. Kim starts at 27 and invests every year until she's 65. Total investment, $117,000. Who ends up with the most money at 65? Kim, who invested the most for the longest, has 1.3 million. Susan, who started earlier and invested less, has 1.5 million. Billy, who invested the least, $15,000 over 5 years, then stopped completely, has $1.6 million. The difference isn't intelligence, it isn't effort, it's when they started. Compound interest doesn't care about your talent, it only cares about time. The most important financial decision you will ever make is starting. Not starting big, just starting. Trap number 5. Thinking a job is safe. This is perhaps the most dangerous belief of all. A job feels safe. Regular paycheck, benefits, structure, predictability. But a job is a permission structure. Someone else has to decide every single day that they still want you. And the moment that changes, for any reason, in any economy, at any time, you have nothing. I watched this happen during the 2008 financial crisis. I watched companies that had grown too fast, hired too many people, and then, when the market turned, walked people out in minutes. 20 years of career gone in a cardboard box. Small businesses don't operate this way. They don't have the luxury of volatile hiring and mass layoffs. They grow steadily, they adapt, and critically, you own the decision. Nobody can walk you out of your own company. Entrepreneurship is not safer than employment. It is a different kind of risk, one you control, rather than one that can be taken from you without warning. So you understand the broken equation. You understand leverage and scale. You understand the psychological traps. Now let's talk about the actual rules that govern how wealth moves in this economy, because most people have never been shown them. Rule 1. You are paid in proportion to the perceived value you deliver to the market, not in proportion to how hard you work, not in proportion to how many hours you put in proportion to how much value the market believes you're creating. A cleaner works physically harder than most executives.
They earn a fraction, not because they're less valuable as human beings, but because the market perceives what they do as easily replaceable. Anyone can learn to clean a building. Not anyone can build a supply chain that serves 200 million customers. The question you need to ask every single day is, how do I increase my perceived value to the market? And there are only two ways. Either you solve bigger problems, or you solve problems for more people simultaneously, which is exactly what scale is for. Rule 2. The more people you help, the more money you make. This is what some call the law of affection. And it sounds simple until you follow it to its conclusion. Your neighborhood barber is a skilled professional, but he serves maybe 20 clients a day. His income reflects 20 people's willingness to pay. Jeff Bezos built infrastructure that serves hundreds of millions of buyers and millions of sellers. His wealth reflects that scale. This isn't about moral worth. It's about math. The more people who benefit from what you create, the more money flows in your direction. So the question becomes, how do I build something that helps more people without requiring proportionally more of my time? And the answer keeps coming back to the same word: scale. Rule 3, focus before diversification. Here's advice that contradicts almost everything you've been told. Don't diversify. Not yet. Everyone says put your eggs in many baskets, spread the risk. Don't bet everything on one thing. But look at how every major fortune was actually built. Bezos focused on books. Facebook focused on college students. Gates focused on operating system software. One product, one customer group, one obsession, then expansion. You get rich by going narrow and deep. You stay rich by diversifying. Most people do this completely backwards. They diversify before they've built anything significant. They spread thin before they've built thick. Hit your first real milestone of financial success in one thing. Then, and only then, expand. Rule 4. Painkillers beat vitamins. Every time. If you're building anything, a business, a personal brand, a product, this rule will determine how much money you make. People pay 10 times more for a solution to a problem they already have than for prevention of a problem they might get. That's why pharmaceutical companies are worth trillions and vitamin companies are worth billions. The practical question for you is this: are you selling pain relief or potential gain? Pain relief means you have this specific problem right now. It's costing you something, and I can make it stop. Potential gain means if you do this, future, you might be better off. The first creates urgency. The second creates procrastination. Whenever possible, solve pain, not just potential. Rule 5. Relationships are the highest return investment available. Money without relationships reaches a ceiling vast. The people who build serious wealth consistently say that the right partnership, the right introduction, the right mentor at the right moment was worth more than any check they ever wrote. But here's the part most people miss. Relationships are built on a simple principle: make other people money first. Short-term thinkers approach relationships transactionally. What can I get from this person right now? Long-term thinkers approach relationships like investments. How can I create value for this person today, knowing that the return will come when it comes? People who operate on the short-term transactional model, scammers, manipulators, selfish operators, eventually run out of people to extract from. The long-term builders keep compounding, pay it forward, and collect over decades. Rule 6. Negotiation is the universal language of wealth. Every dollar you earn has negotiation embedded in it somewhere. The salary you accepted, negotiated, or should have been. The investment terms you signed, negotiated, or should have been. The price you paid for any asset, negotiated, or should have been. People who are uncomfortable asking for more. People who take the first offer, who feel guilty pushing back, who assume the price is the price, leave enormous amounts of money on the table over a lifetime. If you want to get rich, get comfortable being uncomfortable in negotiation. Ask for more. Ask clearly. Ask without apology. The worst answer is no, and you're already there before you ask. Now we need to have the most important conversation of all, because everything we've talked about so far, the mechanisms, the rules, the psychology, is actually in service of something that has nothing to do with money. Let me ask you something. What did you actually want when you started thinking about getting rich? Was it the number in your bank account? Or was it what that number represents? The ability to take your parents on a trip without checking the price. The ability to work on a project that excites you without worrying about whether it pays next month. The ability to say yes to things and no to things based on what you actually want, not what you can afford. That's not money you're after? That's freedom. And here's the critical insight. Freedom and being rich are not the same thing. There are two paths to financial freedom. You can earn your way there, build something big enough that the income exceeds your expenses by a margin you can invest. Or you can save your way there, reduce your expenses aggressively enough that a modest, sustainable income stream covers them entirely. Neither path is superior. They suit different people, different values, different temperaments. Some people want the 4-bedroom house with a view. Some people want the small house in a quiet town with a vegetable garden and a bicycle and no commute. Both can be financially free. They require completely different amounts of money to get there. The mistake is assuming that freedom requires a specific number, that you need 10 million before you can stop worrying. That figure is arbitrary. What you actually need is for your income, passive, investment, or otherwise, to exceed your lifestyle costs. That's it. That's financial freedom in its most precise definition. Now, how do you measure whether you're moving toward this? Because almost nobody tracks it. Here's something that sounds blunt, but it's necessary. If you don't know how much money you made this month, how much you spent, how much you saved, and how much you invested, you are flying blind. Think about it this way. You don't get a six-pack by accident. You track what you eat, you track your workouts, you measure progress. The same principle applies to your finances with equal precision. Track everything, know the numbers, pay attention to your money the way you pay attention to things that actually matter to you. Because money flows toward attention. It leaves when you ignore it. The final piece is knowing when enough is enough. This sounds obvious, it isn't. The pursuit of more, once it becomes the goal in itself, is one of the most destructive forces a wealthy person will ever encounter. There are people who had more than they could ever spend, who risked it all for slightly more, and lost everything that actually mattered. Comparative wealth is a game with no finish line. There is always someone with a larger number, always. If your goal is to beat the next person, you will never arrive, because the next person always exists. Define what enough looks like for you, specifically, concretely. Write it down. I want to be able to do this, to afford this, to give this, to feel this way about money. Then build toward that, not toward some abstract infinite number that will never satisfy you anyway. So let's bring all of this together. Money is not what you think it is. It is a system of belief built on debt, managed by institutions who profit from your misunderstanding of it. The equation you were given, work time, earn money, is mathematically incapable of producing real wealth in the time you actually have to live. The real equation is identify problems, build scalable solutions, deploy leverage, and let compound time do the heavy lifting. The psychological enemies of wealth are not ignorance and laziness. They're the appearance of success over the reality of it, the addiction to the wrong kind of safety, and the refusal to start until conditions are perfect. Conditions will never be perfect. Start now. Use the leg of the tripod you actually have. Focus on one thing until it works, then expand. Build relationships like investments. Negotiate without apology. Track your money with the same attention you give to things you actually care about. And do all of it in service of freedom, not the number. Because the number doesn't feel like anything, the freedom does. Here's the only question that matters now. You've heard all of this. Some of it confirmed what you already suspected. Some of it probably challenge how you've been thinking, but information without action is just entertainment. So ask yourself right now one question. What is the one problem, just one, that people around you are frustrated by, that you could realistically begin to solve? Not $1 billion problem, not the next Amazon, just one real frustration, one real solution. That's where it starts, every time. Because the people who built real wealth didn't start with money. They started with a problem, a leg of the tripod, and enough stubbornness to keep going when it was hard. The road is long, it's filled with failure. Most people won't see it through. But for those who do, at the end of it is something that no one can take from you. Not just money, freedom.
And if you're serious about going deeper on this, there's one more thing you need to understand. Something most people learn too late that determines whether the wealth you build actually lasts beyond you. That's the next conversation.